Hello, everyone. Welcome to Gen AI Talk in 10, brought to you by SS&C Blue Prism. I'm Brad, and he's Satish. So Satish, let's talk about how individuals can get smarter on Gen AI and put it to work immediately. I know you have many thoughts on this.
Absolutely. I mean, I think back to the days where we started, Brad. A lot of it was, self-discovery, if you will, right? And, I remember seeing some amazing resources and even more resources available today. Let's start with the big four, right? The big four vendors, commercial vendors that are providing a lot of great content around Gen AI, right? Starting with Amazon or Microsoft, which is probably one of the most ubiquitous out there given OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, and then Google. And then the fourth one is IBM, right? Each of these players have oodles of content, right? There's no other better way to describe it, probably. Dozens and dozens of classes and videos and tracks and so on. There's also, if you look at things like LinkedIn Live or O'Reilly, we actually at SS&C, we use O'Reilly, which is an amazing repository of information and classes and so on. There are also things like Gartner, which has a lot of great sessions. If you just go to Gartner's website, you'll see a number of sessions, right? Now, one of the most important things to remember is that there are dozens of these classes, right? The issue, though, is, you need to really make use of what the knowledge you're gaining. If you're not hands-on, if you don't try a prompt, you will, no matter how many classes, one goes to, and this goes without saying, it's really the doing that you learn from, right? So I know you and I used all of these LLMs, ChatGPT, Perplexity, others, several times a day, if not dozens of times in some cases. Right? So the doing is the most important part. And then there are books. I have a couple here. I was just reading The AI Edge, which is a pretty recent book, which is very interesting. It's all about, the practical aspects of using AI in sales, in marketing, and I think he does a great job. Now, the other one that I'm reading is The Business Case for AI, which is a pretty decent book, I would say. Even though a lot of that is pretty straightforward. And, once you look at that, you'll say, okay, I get it. The business case is not that different, right? A standard approach to business case creation. This last one is a little bit more cerebral. This is Nick Bostrom's Super Intelligence. So it's more about the future, right? And what that looks like when we achieve AGI, right? Artificial general intelligence, which is essentially the equivalent of human intelligence in a lot of ways, right? So any things you've come across, Brad, that and any good advice?
Well, I've taken advantage of many of the things, many of the online resources you mentioned. And one thing, I don't know if you said this, but they're free, right? That's a big word, and it should be emphasized because most people think to learn about AI, I'm going to have to pay. Now, there are some paid courses that are kind of instructor led, and that go deeper and teach you a lot more. The one thing I wanted to point out too is when we talk about training, you're not going to be building and training algorithms or constructing models. The models are there. I mean, there are so many large language models and now even small language models that you can take advantage of. Training means learning how to interact with them, how to do different types of searches, how to leverage the generative and the creative aspect of Gen AI to create images or create video. I mean, there's so many things that you can do with it, both personally and professionally. So this comes in handy even when you're creating a video for your dad who just turned 80. I mean, there's so many different ways you can take advantage of it. And a lot of this training gets you to that point pretty quickly. So
yeah. And it's also, absolutely. And, it's also interesting, Brad, I forgot to mention this. And I should have remembered, right? Some of the biggest schools out there, universities, are doing some great work, right? So in teaching people. So I did try out one, which was from Berkeley. It was an amazing program. It was, I think, about 3 months long, and I got a certificate at the end of it. Like you said, Brad, a lot of it was not, I wouldn't say it was a ton of programming.
Right.
We had some very interesting projects where you'd go and use Google's capabilities, for example, or AWS, right? And, do some simple projects like how do you train a model? Right? They would give you access to a tool that would let you train a model to recognize a face that's smiling versus a sad face versus, an angry face, right? You can give it a number of pictures, of yourself in these various states of emotion, and very soon the model recognizes what emotion you have when you present it and your new picture, right? So things like that, projects like that. We did a very interesting capstone project at the end of the Berkeley program. I thought it was one of the best programs because there's so much opportunity for you to learn. Beyond that, also, if you think about Coursera, you mentioned the favorite word for a lot of people when it comes to learning, which is the favorite four-letter word, free, right? And so there are, Coursera, for example, is one of my favorites because you can audit any course. I know they offer courses for a fee, but if you choose the audit option, you can take any course, and you might not get a certificate. You might ask for one later. If you really like what you've done,
right?
There's a ton of options, right? So,
and Satish, I think it's also important to talk about the fact that training is not just getting familiar with the technology and what it's capable of and how you can use it, but it's equally important to learn the do's and don'ts and the risk. And it's the fact that this technology is really powerful, but can also produce results that are inaccurate or misleading. And there are ways that people can take advantage of this technology to do harmful or illegal things. So it's really important to learn about that as well, and also learn how to use it safely and to not expose, confidential data. I'm talking about just your own personal data, but also, company data, confidential data. So that's another part of it, and that people really need to understand. And any course you take is going to spend a lot of time on that and really make sure that it's covered adequately.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. Very, very important, right? Especially those of us that are working in technology companies, especially, I think, on what we have to be familiar with. So thank you.
One more thing I'd like to mention just as we wrap up here. For those people watching this that are maybe in school or headed to school or looking to do, maybe even older folks who are going back to school, I think the other thing that you can think about is what are the disciplines that are going to give me the best chance to work with AI when I get done with my school. And it really boils down to, this is not rocket science, but it really boils down to the STEM disciplines. I think, engineering and computer science and data science and math. Those are the skills or the studies, the areas of study that are going to make you much more attractive to companies that are, putting a lot of their investment and energy into AI. Not that the other disciplines are not still good and valuable, but right now there is there's a lack of people in the STEM disciplines, and that's causing a lot of challenges for companies. They can't find the skills they need, and that continues to be a problem, and it will be this year as well.
Absolutely. Well said. The one thing I'll mention though is a caution with STEM is, when it comes to programming, for example, you could there will be a day when simple programming is just like the mundane tasks that are automated. simple programming is not what people will be looking for. They're looking for more thoughtful, anything that involves cognition and decision and thinking is what, along with your advice, which is going to STEM.
Yeah. Don't go learn a programming skill that will be obsolete in 6 months, which we're in an era where any of that could absolutely take place. So, all right. Well, thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time on Gen AI Talk in 10.